First of all, I had the opportunity to read a proclamation for Earth Day up at the Scottish Rite Temple. And big thanks to Brian Gersh and all the folks that made that event possible. I'm not an official attendance speaker, but it seems like that event gets more and more people coming to it each and every year. So kudos to those folks and their efforts. Also, this past Saturday, I had an opportunity to also read another proclamation for an organization called Joshua's Heart Foundation. This is a group of young people, teenagers if you will, 13, 14, 15 years old, 16 years old, who have come together and conducted a food drive on a number of different occasions, trying to stomp out, the word they use is stomp out hunger. And they're out of the South County, I think, and maybe in Broward. I'm not quite sure where most of them come from. But in this particular event, they were able to provide food for 300 families here in Lake Worth. So I was very, very impressed with that effort. And what was impressive, the most impressive about it was that these were literally all teenagers. There really were no adults there other than as chaperones, so to speak. And it was completely done by the youth, and it was very, very moving and very, very a very nice thing to have occurred. Also over the weekend, this is kind of a special thing for me personally, but Sacred Heart School cut the ribbon for the new Founders Hall, new gymnasium. I don't know if any of you folks have seen it driving down Federal Highway, but at 4th and Federal, Sacred Heart Elementary School has it's a gymnasium, if you will, an indoor gymnasium that they've been dreaming of for probably the best part of 20 years. And it's finally, after all these years, come to fruition. And there were a lot of folks, a lot of benefactors that helped put that together. It was really a really great event and a wonderful, wonderful gym. And I got to tell you a story. At the very end of the event, and the mayor was there, and Commissioner Robinson was there, and I was sitting all the way at the end, closest to the one basket. And one of the founders allegedly wanted to be the first one to make the first shot. Well, he decided at the last second he wasn't going to do that. So they were going to let one of the students take the first shot in the gymnasium. So this young boy gets up, he's sitting up, back in the bleachers. He gets up and he's stumbling around trying to get the basketball out from underneath the chair. And he's stumbling and bumbling. I'm thinking, okay. And he gets up, he's kind of awkward because teenage, young people can be awkward or whatever. So he gets up there, gives like a half dribble. They call him 3.5. So if anybody knows anything about basketball, they call him 3.5. This kid gets up, and I'm thinking he's going to take 4 or 5 shots. He launches this three-pointer, nothing but net. Nothing but net. When he first launched it, there was no way this is going to make it. It was just an absolutely incredible shot. In fact, Mark Easton has got it. So if anybody wants to see a good time, you got to check this out. It was unbelievable. That was really cool. Let's see what else do I hear. Sacred Heart. Also, unfortunately, well, not fortunately, there's going to be a hurricane seminar put on again this year. Kevin Addison, as you know, one of our citizens here, puts on an annual hurricane preparation show, event, if you will. It's going to be on the 16th, which is 2 weeks from tonight, at the golf course starting at 5 o'clock. Unfortunately, we're going to be having a meeting, so we won't be able to attend that, but I urge everybody to get out there and see what's happening this year and find out what you can do to best prepare for hurricane season this year. Kevin's not here, but if we're here, I would thank him again for all his hard work and commitment to this exercise. He's been doing this for many, many years, so we really appreciate that. And last but not least, today is May 2nd. Yesterday was May 1st. And yesterday was a huge day in Lake Worth. Okay, it's not what you think. It's not what you think. Yesterday was the city manager's birthday. Celebrating his birthday for the last 2 weeks, because I know of at least 7 events that were held in his honor. But I just want everybody to know that yesterday was the actual day. I was confused because I'd go to these events and say, "Isn't today?" No, today's not the day. Today's not the day. But yesterday was his birthday. So do we want to sing that word, that song? Yeah. Okay. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear manager. Happy birthday to you. All right. Yeah, that's all I got. 29.
Commissioner Hardy.
Well, it's been a while since we had one of these regular meetings, so there's a lot on my list of things to report on. The first thing just has to do with the fundamental goodness and decency of people, in particular people here in the city. I also was at the Joshua's Heart event, and a few other things happened in the city. Bryant Park held a nonprofit showcase, which was really spectacular. And you know, for Carl Stoveland, who is the president of Even Place, he has this photo project called I Am Lake Worth. And you know, you take a picture and then you let people know why Lake Worth is a great place. And I said because it's filled with people who understand the meaning of the word community. And that character of the people here in the city was on display at that nonprofit showcase. It was filled with people who live and work here in Lake Worth, who have dedicated their lives to making Lake Worth and their communities a better place to live. So hats off to Carla Engel for putting that together, and to all the people who showed up to let people know what they're doing in the community. The other thing is Earth Day, which I was at also. Brian Kirsch, Ted Brownstein, Mary Lindsay, you know, they're doers in this community. And you have to respect that. It's really amazing. I don't know where we'd be without it. The other thing was, last week I believe it was, well, as a matter of fact, last month was Fair Housing Month. April is Fair Housing Month. And the Legal Aid Society, along with Jeffrey Lynn, who is an attorney, and along with Dave Ehrenberg, they put on an event that educated, I think, a lot of people, including elected officials and attorneys, about some of the legal issues around sober homes and fair housing as regards sober homes. So Jeffrey Lynn gave a presentation. For those of you who are not aware, Jeffrey Lynn has been involved in litigation against the city of Boca Raton, and I believe to some extent also the city of Point Beach, about how they deal with sober homes. So it was quite an interesting thing to get an education from him, from that side of it, from the fair housing perspective. And also Dave Ehrenberg gave a presentation. And if you don't know how lucky we are to have Dave Ehrenberg as our state attorney, get more familiar with what he does. Because it's very clear that he has a very deep understanding of the issues surrounding this particular issue, which certainly affects Lake Worth, you know, to a great extent. So I was very impressed, and I got quite an education there. Also, last night, there was a meeting in Vernon Heights that I attended. It was actually at the Scottish Rite, but it was about development that may be occurring in the Vernon Heights area. It was a very interesting meeting. It was certainly lively and spirited, and I look forward to seeing what's going to happen with that. And the last thing that I'd like to report on, I guess, requires a little bit of context. I think we all know that we're in the grips of an opioid crisis here in the state of Florida, not just nationally, but especially here in the state of Florida. And many people have called on the governor to direct the state surgeon general to declare a state of emergency so that we can free up some resources to meet this problem head on. And the governor's response to that was to schedule a series of workshops. And we had a workshop yesterday in Palm Beach County. It was at the West Palm Beach Police Department. And, you know, the usual people were there. Our county commissioners, our state representatives, our public health officials, our public safety officials from, you know, Sheriff's Office, from West Palm Beach Police, from Palm Beach Fire Rescue, Captain Mark was there, Houston Mark, Park, excuse me. Captain Park. And, right, Captain Houston Park. And I went in there not knowing what to expect, and I left a little bit upset because what was clear to me was that what we were doing in that room was going to do nothing to save people's lives. Okay, and just to give you a point of comparison, and you know, State Senator Oscar Branham brought this up last year. After just 9 confirmed cases of Zika, the governor directed the state surgeon general to declare a state of emergency. 9 cases. Okay. That freed up $61 million from the general fund. They did all sorts of things. They had curriculum in schools about Zika. They had pamphlets in several languages educating people. There was just a concerted effort to make sure that we tackle that issue, and it looks like it may be at some point in the rearview mirror. 9 cases of Zika. brought that about. Now, in just one day in March, Palm Beach County had 10 overdose deaths. In one day in March, we had 10 overdose deaths. In one day last summer, in Broward County, they had 10 overdose deaths. Every single day, while we're in this meeting, somebody's going to overdose. Okay, 25 people in Palm Beach County overdose a day, 2 of them are going to die. We had over 500 overdoses last year. In Martin County, from 2011 to through last year, they had over 500 overdose deaths. In St. Lucie and Indian River County, they had over 1,500 overdose deaths during that same period. And the response to all of that is to get a bunch of people in the room who have already spoken ad nauseum about this problem, who understand it very well, who don't need to speak to each other any further about it. The response from the governor was to get us in a room together so that we can talk about it some more and not to do anything about it. And I found that to be incredibly frustrating because we have the ability to free up resources to address this issue, and there seems to be a consensus that the problem is overwhelming us in law enforcement and here locally, and it seems like the political will exists everywhere but the governor's office to declare a state of emergency, and that's what we got. We got a discussion yesterday. And so I found that to be very frustrating because I left with the understanding that very little could be done. So, you know, if I have a report to make about that, it's that I went to a workshop and left frustrated, and I am eagerly awaiting the governor to do something. And I would ask, I understand that the League of Cities, and we're a member of the League of Cities, sent some sort of resolution to the governor asking to declare a state of emergency. I understand that Palm Beach County, rather Melissa McKinley, would like the Palm Beach County Commission to send their own resolution or letter as a commission. Martin County has sent their own letter to the governor as a commission. I would ask that we as the city of Lake Worth get together and put a letter together. If the political will exists here, to send a letter to the governor and let them know that this problem is overwhelming us and we need him to use the powers that have been vested in him by the voters of the state of Florida to lead and to do something that's going to save people's lives, that's going to prevent people from losing family members. And, you know, I would like to see if we can do that. So.
Totally agree with Commissioner Hardy. I sit on the board of directors for the Palm Beach County League of Cities, and yes, we did send that letter to the governor, and I totally agree with you that the city of Lake Worth and other cities in Palm Beach County should also adopt it. I also sit on the Sober Home Task Force and the Heroin Task Force. I attended both of those meetings. HB Bill 807 and SB 788 have, those are our sober home bills that we've written. They have passed the House and they're waiting to go to the Senate, so we're hopeful that those will pass. Unfortunately, they may be one of the only things that pass that help small cities. Most of the things that are coming through Tallahassee in this session does not help small cities and hurts Lake Worth tremendously. On that note, I have a copy of Captain Bear's statistics for the last months. We saw it, but I printed them out so you actually have them in front of you. When people are asking you about the statistics in Lake Worth, I want you to be able to see it and remind them exactly what sober homes and the opiate addiction looks like in the city of Lake Worth. Commissioner Hardy talked about the passionate people in the city of Lake Worth. I was happy to help facilitate with Chip Guthrie and Captain Bear first appearance. We had a group of representatives, passionate citizens, Richard Gersios here, Tammy Pandas here, and Chip Guthrie. This last weekend, Friday and Saturday, Friday we did a sting with the Sheriff's Department to bust the prostitution. Saturday we did the Johns. These residents spent time on Saturday and Sunday, and I believe Tammy Pandas went back on Monday for her first appearance. And it was a huge success. The judge not only gave the prostitutes a little extra time, but it set precedents for future. They were given extra time. There's some additional talks about our mapping program, mapping Bryant Park, mapping South Bryant Park and Federal Highway. So that's great. So I want to thank you for your passion and your dedication as residents of the city. I want to thank Captain Bear and his team for doing that. We look forward to more of that happening because it's an ongoing issue. Again, I want to thank you for the Holiday House and the future things that we're talking about working on. Passion and dedication. We had a volunteer breakfast in the city of Lake Worth. A lot of our volunteers couldn't show up, unfortunately. Some of them were, but we have a huge turnout. And again, I want to thank everyone that goes above and beyond volunteering, and also staff. A lot of the staff goes above and beyond, and crossing over into volunteerism, overtime, spending a little extra time on projects. So I want to thank you for that. Attended Palm Beach County League of Cities board meeting, Heroin Task Force, Sober Home Task Force. We have some upcoming events. We have Derby Days coming up in May. That's always a great, fun event. We also have Party in the Park this weekend. I'll pass out flyers and there'll be more out front. 2 years ago in 2014, we were working with Healthier Lake Worth. It's an initiative through Palm Healthcare. 5 cities, they had $5 million in grants that they wanted to give out. 5 cities were chosen. We were one of the cities, so you'll see the first 2 years was actually community engagement, grassroots working with the community. We're at the point now where we'll actually move forward with picking the Healthier Initiative engagement team. The Party in the Park this weekend will be at 8th Street Park behind Compass, and it's really to kick off the event. So I encourage you to come out and learn more about that. I think I covered everything. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Robinson?
Everything's been said. I thank Commissioner Hardy for recognizing that priorities have consequences, and if we don't have priorities, people will suffer. I attended the Sober Home lectures, if you want to call it that. It was informative but frustrating as well. Volunteer breakfast was fantastic. The city's appreciation for the people that volunteer on the boards. But I want to mention the volunteers that were at Earth Day, the Kiwanis Club, and Brian Kirsch and Melvin and the people that really brought a community together in terms of Earth Day. But the volunteers that participate in the neighborhood associations, the presidents, I've been to, the Bryant Park neighborhood had a fantastic networking among nonprofits, and I think the success of that was other nonprofits finding out who they could work with. Bryant Park is looking forward to a fun event at the golf course for Derby Day. And I attended the Mango Groves Neighborhood Association, the Tropic Ridge Neighborhood Association, Royal Poinciana, Pineapple Beach, and Whispering Palms. And at each one of those neighborhood associations was clearly a new energy and a demonstration that people want to better their city. And the leadership that the presidents and the people in those neighborhoods are stepping up and providing is really encouraging. It's going to make Lake Worth a better city. Joshua Hart was mentioned. Those kids are leaders of the future. It's run by the kids. So, and I want to especially thank Laurie for the red tag efforts that she's made and the efforts on all of the code enforcement challenges that we have. I want to mention the workshops that are coming up May 9th on the budget, 11th on the District 1 roads, and the 23rd is going to be the pool workshop, which was changed from June. The spirit in Lake Worth lives and is getting stronger. I'm just so proud to and happy to live in Lake Worth.
Thank you so much. I'm so proud of y'all. My
my husband got, for the first time in 16 years, to take me on a drive vacation for an entire week in 6 years, so I'm glad they were out covering lots of events and doing stuff and I'm very grateful to all of them for proclaiming and doing all those things for me. I really appreciate it. A couple of things, because I did have that trip. I am the new recipient of a little free library. So we're gonna have a ribbon cutting. It was somebody who lived in my neighborhood who moved. And so I've dubbed my husband the king of the little free library because he's got more books than probably all of us combined. So we've been having fun stocking it up and putting some books in there and checking it out. So I'm so pleased about that. Volunteer breakfast was incredible. You know, mentioned one brief thing in that volunteer breakfast when I got up to read the proclamation, which was, you know, 6 years ago we talked about how could we do this? We had so many needs throughout the community, and how were we going to do it? We could only do it with the help of the community. At that time we were so short-staffed, and we weren't staffed at the levels that we are now. And what were we going to do? Because people wanted the same resources and amenities, and volunteers from our community stepped up in a huge way, and we see them volunteering on our advisory boards, in our community, in our visitor center, in so many different ways, and I'm so proud of all of them, and also to Selvina too, who heads that up and helps people find their passion in the different groups, and finds what they like to do within the city and where they contribute. Some really great stories there. I was also at Sacred Heart. That was a dream come true for those kids, and yes, that shot was serious. I mean, it was like whoosh, it was no prep, no nothing. Kid throws it up, it's in, wish, and everybody's jaws dropped. It was fantastic. So the Lord was with her. What else was I going to say? Speaking of which, National Day of Prayer is Thursday officially across the country, and the Lake Worth Interfaith is having a celebration, a breakfast, and I will be there to help them celebrate as always. I hope you'll join us. And then also, what else do I have left? I'm not sure. I think that's it. Thank you to all. I really appreciate it. And again, thank you to my fellow commissioners. It's so wonderful having you out there in the community doing such great work. Really appreciate it. Moving on to public participation of non-agenda and consent agenda items. First up, Lynn Anderson, followed by Dustin Sachs.